It's Friday, February 7. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Jamaicans are being warned to prepare for a sustained dry period this spring once again. Director of the National Meteorological Service, Evan Thompson, gave the warning at a Jamaica House press conference on Thursday. He explained that the dry period is due to abnormal rainfall, creating serious implications for water supply and resources, similar to 2019.
This is kind of a deja vu signal for us, and it could spell further concern for the availability of rainfall in the corporate area. We will recall that in 2019 there was a deficit mainly in that sector of the island, the northeast and generally eastern parishes, but the northeast in particular, and the sections of the island that depend very heavily, or where the dependence is very heavy for the rainfall feeding the corporate area.
He was among a number of experts assembled by the Minister with responsibility for water and housing in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Senator Pernell Charles Jr., to explain to the media the challenges that stakeholders are likely to face.
The forecast of below normal rainfall and severe drying will affect the storage levels at the dams and catchment tanks. So this means that the NWC and others will have less distributive capacity. If we don't get enough, we won't have enough to give. Therefore, we don't want to, but in order to be able to maintain a particular standard, regulations are put in place. This means that persons will have less access to water at times based on the regulations, but importantly, the regulations allow the NWC to reduce also the loss of water from the distribution network due to leaks.
Chairman of the National Water Commission, Senator Auburn Hill, acknowledged that the dry spell could have serious implications for the country and the Commission.
To use the resources that we have, to use the resources that have been given to us and resources that we as individual Jamaicans possess, to make sure we conserve, reuse when you can, and recycle when we must. Water is critical. It's unusual for the minister, or any minister that I know, to bring this together so early in a dry season.
He said the NWC was continuously monitoring its major facilities, the Hermitage Dam and the Mona Reservoir. Mr. Hill explained that the lack of rainfall, coupled with rapid decline in the river inflows, have commenced, reducing nighttime inflows within the network of the corporate area. He added that the NWC was also committed to increasing trucking to adversely affected communities, and schedules will be publicized regarding the areas that will be visited. As the island continues to monitor and prepare for the novel coronavirus, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says Jamaica's border control workers have been trained on how to deal with the virus threat.
We have engaged some 329 frontline employees at the Norman Manley International Airport and Sangster International Airport, including immigration, customs, port health, airport police, Jamaica Fire Brigade, aviation services, various airlines, and management staff at the ports. The training sessions have focused on the new coronavirus with respect to roles and responsibilities of the points of entries, as well as facilitation of prompt recognition of infection or potentially infectious persons and implementation of an appropriate intervention.
Speaking at a press conference on Wednesday at the ministry's New Kingston office, Dr. Tufton said healthcare professionals have likewise been adequately sensitized to the viral outbreak.
Sensitized some 50 senior nursing managers and 50 physicians from the public health system across the island, sensitized 50 clinicians from the private sector, and sensitized representatives from the various professional health groups, including the Medical Association of Jamaica, the Association of Government Consultants, and the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, together with professionals supplementary to medicine.
As was reported on Thursday, a national coordinated mechanism is to be set up over the next few days, which is a cabinet directive that was issued on Monday. The House of Representatives this week approved the second supplementary estimates, which shows additional spending of $7.966 billion for this fiscal year. This has increased the budget to $859 billion. In his remarks, Minister of Finance and Public Service Dr. Nigel Clark noted that the fiscal year to end of November 2019 recorded better than budgeted performances on both the central government's primary balance and fiscal balance indicators.
This favorable fiscal performance resulted from a combination of higher than projected revenue and grants and lower than programmed expenditure. Revenue and grants were ahead of the first supplementary estimates by $4.8 billion or 1.2%, driven mainly by the strong performance of tax revenue, which was $5.1 billion better than the first supplementary budget. Capital revenue, which was forecast at $0.8 billion, exceeded projection by $130 million.
He said provisional data indicate that central government operations at the end of November 2019 generated a fiscal surplus of $11.4 billion, which is $16.9 billion better than the programmed deficit of $5.5 billion. The finance minister outlined areas that have benefited from the additional spending.
Another allocation of $1.598 billion to the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation towards the repairs and cleanup activities associated with the flood range, along with the maintenance of secondary roads. $1.709 billion to the Ministry of National Security portfolio, with $748 billion for the Jamaica Defense Force and $748 million for the JDF and $958 million for the police. And then a $1.1 billion allocation to the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, which includes $1 billion due to the NHT, representing amounts that the Ministry of Finance, on behalf of all of government, owes to the NHT for contribution arrears dating back for several years. And
Dr. Clark noted that the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, $3.594 billion, and the Ministry of Local Government and Community Developments, $1.077 billion, have been the main beneficiaries for the reallocated resources. The government is planning to bolster security arrangements at the schools in order to safeguard students, teachers, and other stakeholder users. So says Minister with Responsibility for Education, Youth and Information, Carl Samuda. He says discussions are ongoing for provisions for full-time security personnel and equipment.
To see to what extent we can make provisions for full-time security people, staff, and equipment, surveillance equipment, cameras throughout the schools, and a monitoring system that will alert those who are charged with the responsibility of monitoring the activities of the school while school is in active session, and also the premises while the school is out on the weekends.
He was addressing students and teachers of Vauxhall High School in Kingston during a visit on Wednesday to extend condolences and support in the aftermath of the untimely death of grade 11 coordinator Carl Samuels, who was shot and killed by 2 gunmen on the institution's campus on January 25. Starting in February, Transport Authority inspectors will begin to work weekends and into the nights as the government steps up increased enforcement of traffic regulations. Transport Minister Robert Montague says the employment of an additional 50 inspectors has made the move possible.
Because a lot of the breaches take place on weekends and at nights. And if you can enforce that the man must wear his uniform at 1 a.m. in the morning, he will know that he must wear it at 11 a.m. in the morning. So we will be enforced, even when there's nobody else on the road and him want, we're going to enforce it. Because it must be a culture change. And therefore, in order to be more professional, it takes discipline and stick-to-itiveness. And we are determined to bring order to the public passenger industry.
Minister Montague was speaking at Tuesday's launch of the Transport Authority Hope Service Corps Drivers Program. Ganja growers want the Cannabis Licensing Authority, CLA, to clarify the conditions under which cannabis has been exported from the island, even before the passage of the import-export regulations that are still in draft. Acting Program Director of the Ganja Growers and Producers Association of Jamaica, Paul Burke, said there is confusion as how to get the special exporter's permission. He says there is nothing on the CLA website to guide how to go about this. Last year, 22 pounds of legal cannabis were exported to Canada by licensed cannabis company Global Canna Labs, a move which was lauded by Agriculture Minister Only Shaw as a step in the right direction. However, responding to some of the concerns, Director of the CLA Board, Delana Severite, pointed out that the regulations for the cannabis industry is a multifaceted process, which includes several government ministries and entities. Severite also said that CLA has completed a detailed review of the draft import-export regulations, which will make Jamaica one of the only 10 countries in the world with an export regime. $25 million. That's how much it will cost to hold the March 2 by-election in the constituency of Clarendon Southeast. That figure reported by the Electoral Office of Jamaica. This was revealed Wednesday evening by Director of Elections Glaspel Brown, who said he expects the funds will be released by the Finance Ministry next week. He said following nomination day, a decision will be made whether to use the electronic voting system for the election. The seat became vacant following the recent resignation of Member of Parliament Roderick Spencer. The opposition People's National Party, PNP, will not be contesting the Clarendon Southeast by-election. The PNP has said it is focused on the next general election. The British government plans to deport 50 Jamaicans who have been classified as criminals. Pressure is mounting on the Boris Johnson-led government to suspend the flight to Jamaica on February 11, as many of the individuals could be victims of human trafficking. The Joint Council for Welfare of Immigrants said many of those facing deportation have been residents in the UK for decades. On Wednesday, a Labour Party MP urged Prime Minister Johnson to suspend the flight until a report into the Windrush scandal is published. However, the Prime Minister said that the right decision was made to deport the Jamaicans. The British government says all those scheduled to be deported are criminals with no right to remain in the country. It's the weekend, so it's time for your entertainment recap with Alicia Steele.
Hey, Wagwan, I'm Alicia and welcome to PBCJ's Entertainment Recap. Dancehall artist Bounty Killer is calling on authorities to push funds into social development. The DJ was speaking at a recent forum put on by Red Stripe. He said the solution to the country's crime problem does not rest in declaration of states of emergency. The DJ, whose real name is Rodney Price and who is a product of Kingston Stuff Inner City, said that circumstances and a lack of opportunity forced many youths into a life of crime. He encouraged the government to invest in development strategies that will transform the lives of young people. Gone but not forgotten. Last Saturday, members of the entertainment fraternity gathered at the graveside of late reggae singer Dennis Brown to lay wreaths in his honor. Brown, who would have turned 63 on February 1st, was remembered for his sterling contributions to the music. His former road manager and friend, Trevor Legabees Douglas, said Brown would have been appreciative of the ceremony, which took place at National Heroes Park in Kingston. But he wants to see more done to honor the Crown Prince of Reggae. He also said Orange Street in West Kingston and Dennis Brown are synonymous, and it is where he was born and came to national prominence. Reggae Month, which is also celebrated as Black History Month in some countries, keeps on growing. This year, magazine editors Ellen Collins and Pete Lilly are among the reggae lovers that will flock to Jamaica to soak up, document, and potentially publish the Reggae Month's anticipatory moments in Rhythm Magazine 100th issue. Though the month's festivities will still be on by the time the German language magazine has to hit the press, the editors gave the assurance that the team would still participate in as much as they can. That the Jamaica Music Conference, featuring music producer Walsh Fire, international pop star and our own Shaggy, and the founding father of hip-hop, Cool Herc, Dubwise at Kaya Herb House, and Kumar Ben's Cultural Walk in St. Elizabeth. The beautiful month of February, where we celebrate Black History Month and Reggae Month, is also on fire again with the month's celebration to our own Gregory Isaac, one of our pioneers, like I just said, in reggae industry and lovers rock. The late Gregory Isaac has a concert centered around him, Red Rose to Gregory, to be held on February 15 at Legony Golf Club in New Kingston, with acts such as 4 times Grammy winner Denise Williams, Sanchez, the Melodians, and Third World, who is set to give him a musical salute at the concert. Despite appeals from players within the music industry and positive reports of its effectiveness, the 2-hour extension granted for the hosting of entertainment events has come to an end. Last December, the Noise Abatement Temporary Amendment Act had given an extension of the time for social or entertainment events to 2 a.m. generally and 4 a.m. within certain parameters. Promoters and sound system operators alike had hailed the December 10th to January 31st reprieve, which they said had allowed them to make some money during the busy festive season. But with the Reggae Month celebrations, there will not be an extension of the Noise Abatement Act. Friday or Friday? Today's Friday is Jada Kingdom's Heavy. Out and about. The UE Carnival Creme de la Creme des Caribes media and band launch is on February 8th, and tickets are $500 pre-sold, $800 at the gate. The 658 series every Friday at Mecca over on Marketplace. General tickets are $1,000. After hours is $1,500, and VIP is $2,000. After hours is $2,500. Enough love to Air Candy, of course, for my beautiful orange earrings to go with my ensemble. And thanks for watching the PBCJ's Entertainment Recap. And remember, I'm your girl, Alicia. Talk to you next time. Oh, what good.
The US dollar on Thursday, February 6th, ended trading at $142.03, up by 23 cents. That's according to the Bank of Jamaica's daily exchange trading summary. The summary also states that the Canadian dollar is being traded at $104.26, down from $107.13, while the British pound sterling ended trading at $182.48, down from $183.49. In regional news, we look to Guyana, where news emerged on Thursday that the International Court of Justice, ICJ, is set to hear public hearings next month on whether it has jurisdiction to determine on a border claim case involving Guyana and Venezuela. The International Court of Justice is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. News source Guyana's Gordon Mosley reports.
The International Court of Justice today announced that it will be moving ahead with public hearings in the Guyana versus Venezuela case concerning the 1899 arbitral award. The public hearings will take place from the 23rd to the 27th of March at the court in The Hague. In a statement this afternoon, the ICJ said the hearings will give the parties to the case the possibility to address the question of the jurisdiction of the court. Venezuela has repeatedly said it will not take part in the hearings because it is of the view that the court has no jurisdiction to hear the matter. Venezuela wants the controversy to be returned to the UN Good Office's process, but it was the UN Secretary General who forwarded the case to the ICJ after that Good Office's process failed to bring any results. During the hearings before the ICJ, both Guyana and Venezuela will be expected to put forward their oral arguments in the case with later rebuttals. The entire hearing will be streamed live on the internet. In an earlier statement, the Guyana Ministry of Foreign Affairs had indicated that the hearing will determine whether the court has jurisdiction over the case filed by Guyana in March of 2018. Guyana is seeking to obtain a final and binding judgment from the court that the 1899 arbitral award, which established the location of the land boundary between then British Guyana and Venezuela, remains valid and binding, and that Guyana's Essequibo region belongs to Guyana and not Venezuela. Venezuela has claimed in a letter to the court that the Secretary General exceeded his authority under the Geneva Agreement and that the court therefore lacks jurisdiction to adjudicate Guyana's lawsuit. Venezuela had indicated that it will not participate in the proceedings. The Foreign Affairs Ministry of Guyana said under well-established judicial precedent, the court will proceed to decide if it has jurisdiction over Guyana's claims, irrespective of whether or not Venezuela participates in the proceedings. If it decides that it has jurisdiction, the court will proceed to rule on the merits of those claims and decide whether the validity of the 1899 arbitral award and the border between the two countries should be confirmed. Under the UN Charter and the court's own rules, its final judgments, both on jurisdiction and the merits, will be legally binding on Guyana and Venezuela, whether or not Venezuela participates in the proceedings.
Guyana's President David Granger on Wednesday accredited 3 new diplomats. They are from Portugal, Sierra Leone, and the Kingdom of Belgium. The details in this Newsroom Guyana report.
The accreditation ceremonies took place at the Ministry of the Presidency's Vicinjon Road, Georgetown office. In presenting his letters of credence to President David Granger, Portugal's ambassador to Guyana, Carlos Amaro, said he will continue the friendship between Portugal and Guyana and committed to strengthening relations with the two countries in areas such as maritime, renewable energy, and tourism. The Portuguese ambassador also mentioned enforcing economic relations.
This is very significant past between our two nations, places us in an excellent position to further develop close bilateral relations, particularly in areas of mutual interest, and to identify possible paths of cooperation. Oceans are a major subject of Portugal's external policy action, and we are deeply committed to ensure compliance concerning the sustainable use of oceans, seas, and maritime resources. This will be the core of the second UN Oceans Conference, which Portugal will host next June.
Sierra Leone's High Commissioner to Guyana was also accredited on Wednesday. The High Commissioner in his speech said he plans to explore the areas of sustainable development, good governance, and human rights. He also mentioned other areas such as agriculture, mining, education, and energy.
We share similar positions on important issues of global concern, such as sustainable development, human rights, democracy, good governance, as well as maintaining international peace and security. Let me assure you that we will continue to collaborate with your government to further strengthen our multilateral cooperation.
Meanwhile, Belgium's non-resident ambassador to Guyana, Hugo Verbies, highlighted Belgium's interest to contribute to the oil industry.
Oil production has started and will continue to grow exponentially in the coming months and years, as I have understood. A good management of these additional resources will no doubt give a big boost to the further development of Guyana, whereby a fair distribution of the revenues will ensure prosperity for all the people in this country, and I hope that Belgium can also contribute to that.
In response to accepting the letters of credence, President Granger congratulated all 3 ambassadors and assured the full support of government in the execution of their duties.
Guyana welcomes the opportunity to explore fields of cooperation, the protection of the environment, agriculture, and mining. We look forward to sharing experiences, creating sustainable economies through the development of our human resources, preserving peace, and improving the quality of life of our people.
Reporting for Newsroom, Esnella Patwell.
In sports, we're out of the blocks with athletics. The statue of Olympian and former world record holder 100 meters, Asafa Powell, will be unveiled at Independence Park at the National Stadium in Kingston on Sunday. Speaking at a recent JIS think tank, Sports Minister Olivia Grange said the event was timed as part of the ongoing Reggae Month celebrations.
We have arranged the unveiling during Reggae Month because Asafa Powell is really from a family that is musical. Asafa himself played a musical instrument. You may not see him play it now, but he has been involved in the church with both parents who are ministers of religion.
Powell is one of the island's most accomplished sprinters. He is on the all-time fastest men in the world list. He is known as the Sub-10 King, having been inducted in the Guinness Book of World Records for clocking the most sub-10 times in his pet events, the 100 meters. Over to cricket. Fitness is non-negotiable. That's the response from Cricket West Indies Director of Cricket, Jimmy Adams, in light of Evan Lewis and Shimron Hetmyer being omitted from the West Indies ODI squad for the tour of Sri Lanka after failing fitness tests. More in the report from Newsroom Guyana's Akeem Green.
Some eyebrows were raised over the omission of marquee one-day international batsmen Evan Lewis and Shimron Hetmyer for the tour to Sri Lanka over them not meeting the minimum fitness standard. Between the ODIs and T20 internationals, 6 matches, Lewis scored 309 runs against Ireland, with 3 scores over 50, including an unbeaten 99 and 102. Hetmyer had a lean series against Ireland, but would have cracked a match-winning 139 against India in December. However, Adams was pellucid, noting both fitness and performances must align with each other. How do you balance the fitness standard against the person who's in top form?
It's a non-negotiable. It goes hand in hand. One of the examples that I use is to remind people that the whole issue of getting fitter players is to reduce injury, and this is one of the areas that we've suffered from in the past. We had young John Campbell who went to Ireland, and he was not in the fittest state at the time. Gets a good score, gets 100 in the first game, but then physically can't compete in the rest of the series because of not being where he should be. And we can't afford to have our best players not being on the park because they're not at an accepted fitness level. So I'm looking forward to these lads correcting that in the near future and getting the fitness levels up to where it should be. And out of that, making sure that we can keep them on the park for longer than probably we have been able to do in the past.
The former West Indies captain further clarified the required minimum standard.
Right now we've tied it to 40 on the yo-yo test, right, which is an intermittent running sort of system, and that has been in place for, as I said, for quite a while. The players have known about it, and we expect players. It is something that has been implemented even at franchise level, because I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but it came down to the franchise level at their last fitness testing that we had in the Caribbean, and there were measures for those who failed to meet that standard as well. And the response has been very good throughout the Caribbean, because we have most of our players now statistically are above that level, and it is something that we expect as a minimum standard, certainly not just for all our players, but especially for international players.
According to CWI Chief Executive Johnny Grave, the duo could return in time for the T20 series against Sri Lanka if they manage to pass the upcoming retests. For the newsroom, Akeem Green.
And that's the news on PBCJ. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, we are the People's Station.